Hello and welcome to the Maniacal Mini. Today we will be working on Imelda Braskov from the Cursed City. Starting on the skin first, we will be using Argonaut skin from the 2 thin coats range. Being careful not to overload our brush or hit other areas of the model so we can take full advantage of contrast paint in later steps. Make sure to leave ample drying time between layers. Using some flesh wash, we are going to apply a coat over all the flesh to bring out details. Bringing back in Argonaut skin, we are going to apply our first layer of highlights, sticking to the more raised areas of the face. The final highlights on the skin will be done with Chronos flesh. This part we will be just hitting the upmost areas of the face. However, if you make a mistake, it should be a quick fix. Moving on to the eyes, we are going to take some white star paint and an airbrush needle to help us get extra accuracy when applying to the eyes. Just be cautious that you don't overload the tip of the airbrush needle. Now we are going to take some Berserker bloodshade and thin it with a touch of water. This is going to be what we use to glaze some color on the cheeks and lips of the model. For the hair we are going to be using Nazdreg yellow contrast paint, being careful to not overload the brush and flood the model. Moving on to the armor panels next. We will be using some Dwarven iron from 2 thin coats. We want to thin this with just a touch of water to allow it to flow more freely over the armor. Be cautious in this step not to hit areas we have already gone over, or areas we are going to be using more contrast paint on. Now we are going to be using some Nuln oil to darken down and matte the Dwarven iron, while also letting it sink into the recesses to give us more definition. Again, we want to be cautious of not overloading the area. For highlights on the armor, we will be using Surcoat Silver. Remember to stick to any areas that would reflect natural light to place your highlights. This will allow us to pull more of a cohesive look with the rest of the model. As you can see, we work through this step fairly quickly. However, it's important to make it look as natural as possible for the end result. Now we will be switched back to contrast paints for a moment. The next color is going to be snakebite leather, and we are going to hit all the straps around the model. With the way we set up the model, laying down contrast this way will keep the highlights we've added ourselves. Once more, it's important not to overload the brush to avoid flooding details of the model. We will be switching back to metallics now by bringing in some Spartan bronze for the rest of the model. Using this will allow us to take full advantage of the coloring in the weathering stages of the model. Using ancient sepia wash, we will be toning down the bronze from the previous step. With a touch of sepia ink, we are going to paint the beak on her back. Using rattling grime contrast paint, we are now going to cover the fur. This will help keep a nice and even tone of the overall product by meshing nicely with the colors we have already put, and the white we plan to leave. We are now using Black Legion contrast paint for the boots and gloves on the model. Again, this will help us achieve a nice even tone across the model. Using Basilicanum Grey contrast paint, we are going to cover the small pillar she is standing on for a natural looking stone. Now it's time for some weathering, and to kick it off we are going to cover the entire model and base with AK Interactive Streaking Grime. You can liberally apply this, as we are going to use the reductive technique to remove it back off the model. Using mineral spirits or white spirits and a Q-tip, we are going to gently work the streaking grime off the model. Be very careful in this step, as rubbing too hard can work through our contrast paints. Bringing in Dirty Down Rust, we are going to liberally apply this to all of the steel metallics. Using a Q-tip and some regular water to reactivate, we are going to remove just a bit of the dirty down rust to leave more natural looking patches of rust. Bringing in some splatter effects now from AK Interactive, we are going to start adding texture to the cloth. Using some coagulated blood from Green Stuff World, we are going to add the first pass of blood effects on the model, making sure not to go too overboard. The final weathering step will be to add some true blood from Green Stuff World. We are going to apply this in smaller patches over the coagulated blood. The last step to finish off the model is to paint the rim of the base with some black paint. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have, please consider liking and subscribing.